You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands, with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
We've spoken about measuring what you treasure, about insights, about market research. But there is this one element that is common across all of these that you've mentioned, Sudeep, about stimulus being used across all research and insights and measurements. So, what is stimulus and why do we need it?
Fair, fair. So for everybody who's listening to this and who's been possibly following us or asking us how to do research, DIY or otherwise, you would appreciate that you go to consumers to get their reaction to something, and that something could be a new proposition that you're thinking of, or a proposition that you've already thought of and you want to do some articulation around it, or a new idea that you want to check. Anything that you want to do, you would want to create some kind of a representation that a consumer can react to. This representation is called stimulus. For example, you have a brand, you have thought about a proposition that you think will appeal to brand's target segment, then you convert that proposition into some kind of a communication, some kind of a representation. That representation is called stimulus. Now, these representations or this stimulus could be of multiple kinds. Yeah, the ones that I've usually seen in all my years in marketing, in the research, etc., is the first one I would possibly say is advertisement, something that you see on TV, digital, etc. So that's the most finished form of stimulus that you will find for any brand. Then third most common will be animatics. So this is pre-advertising 2D or 3D representation of the advertisement. Animatics is made when a creative writes a script, and that script is then animated using 2D or 3D characters. So it is significantly cheaper as opposed to an advertisement, and therefore you can test whether an advertisement is working or not working by making first in animatics. So now is when possibly I introduce the most common form of stimulus, which is concept card. Now concept card is the most commonly used stimulus across all kind of researches, regardless of whether it is a quantitative or a qualitative research. Yeah. A different form of concept card, which again, you know most of us would have seen in researches, is called adcept.
Mhm.
An adcept is a little more tastefully designed concept card, which almost looks like a print ad. It might not be completely finished in terms of its articulation, etc., but concept card more looks like a slide, and adcept looks more like a print in a newspaper. Yeah, but they're just a slightly better designed form of each other. But in today's conversation, we should discuss more and dive deeper into concept card. Now, a concept card, the reason it is most popular is because it can be made by anybody, could be turned around by anybody. It does not require you to be a creative designer or an art designer to make it. It presents a logical flow of thought to the consumer. You don't need to take big leaps, etc., etc. And last but not the least, it allows for all qualitative as well as quantitative measurement, and hence concept card is possibly fairly popular. Now, if you want to create a concept card, this is something that you should possibly write down or note down. There are four different pieces that you need to articulate in a concept card, and only four. First is a relevant consumer insight. That is something that you start with. Second is your brand offer or benefit, which solves for that insight or builds on that insight. Third is your reason to believe. or which is called as RTB by a lot of marketers. So now that you captured a consumer insight, you have offered a benefit. You should also offer a logical argument which allows the consumer to believe you. Why should they believe you? So there is a reason to believe.
They believe that my brand or my product can actually fulfill the deed.
Yeah, can offer or can fulfill. And last but not the least is you sign it off by giving the emotional payoff. Yeah, what is the final emotional payoff that the consumer would get if they are going to use your brand to satisfy the need that you have identified? Yeah, this could actually form a slogan or anything of that kind. So that's the simple structure. For example, if somebody was to write a concept for water that we drink every day, so therefore what is the relevant consumer insight?
Thirst, refreshment,
Yeah, okay. How I look at water is that there are multiple options to quench your thirst and feel refreshed, but there is only one which is almost freely available and in abundance. Yeah, almost everything is paid for or is controlled by somebody, right? So you would possibly articulate it saying there are multiple moments during the day when I feel thirsty and I want something to quench my thirst. How I wish I had a drink that was freely available and I could carry it along with me.
and the insight that you're talking about, should it always be written or said in the first person?
Ideally, yes, because a consumer is going to read it. Therefore, it should almost be written in a manner that mirrors consumers' articulation and feelings. Because it is finally the consumer whom you are going to talk to, and they are going to read it. So therefore, it comes like this. So therefore, I would say that there are multiple moments during the day when I feel thirsty and I need something to quench my thirst. How I wish that there was a drink that was freely available with me and I could carry it with me. So then the brand offer will be, and the brand offer then is from God, because God God made water available. So the brand offer is that presenting to you God's boon, water, a drink that is freely available and if kept clean, can be consumed by anybody, and it can be flavored, it can be consumed like it is, it can be its temperature can be changed, and it is very well adept at quenching your thirst. And then there is reason to believe is that you have to believe what God says. So that's the reason to believe, that if God is saying that he's made something like this, you might as well believe it. And finally, the emotional payoff, that water,
The elixir of
the
life.
elixir of life, or a thirst quencher available anytime, anywhere, if you're not so creative like Sharvana. So that's how, that's the structure. So there is a insight articulation in first person, says that the consumer, almost when they're reading, they think that this is mirroring what I think. Then there is the brand offer, then there is reason to believe, and finally there is the emotional payoff. If you follow this structure will also allow the consumer to unwrap your offer in a manner that they are taken through it in a fairly logical manner. Once you convert it into a print ad or a TV ad, you kind of build a lot of these insight, etc., into semiotics or context. You will not say it out aloud, right? And that's why you need good creative guys to work with you. But at a concept stage, these are things that are still in your head, and you've not figured whether this is the right articulation. And number two, how can you build it into semiotics? And hence, concept card is a fairly simple form of just putting it out there and checking whether each part of a card resonates with the consumer or not.
Right. And another point I just wanted to add was that when the insight is written in first person, It builds a lot of relatability for the consumers reading it. And when you place the benefit right next to the insight without the aid of any creative, is when, like you said, the logic flows a lot smoother. And when you actually convert it into an and, it might not be this clearly articulated. Here we're taking the help of words. I think that's a beautiful way of
Yeah,
putting it.
and you will find that advertising, etc., also has a significant task of engaging with the consumer, and hence it might follow the reveal route. So a lot of the reason to believe, etc., might come towards the end. So the structure of an advertising is governed more by how they want to engage the consumer. Concept card structures itself in a fairly logical manner, such that you are able to test for relatability of each statement rather than the beauty of its articulation.
Right. So I have a couple of questions on this, Sudeep. One, what happens to this concept when you translate it? Because marketers end up writing it in India mostly in English, but not all our brands are sold in English. And I've looked at it even in international markets. While my team or I write the concept in English, it gets translated to multiple languages. Have you seen the impact of the concept change, or is concept the best way to enable this translation?
No, I think I actually believe that concept possibly is the simplest way of getting your translation right. When you start adding creative layers on top of it, that is where you use lingo or words which are little more colloquial in nature, and there the translation runs the risk of becoming transliteration. Yeah, and then getting the local nuance right, getting a pronunciation right, etc., becomes very critical. In concept card you haven't added any significant layer, so it's very simply is your logic laid down in a bare form. Then it needs to be translated. Of course, due course, due care need to be taken, such that the right words are used and everything that you want to say is completely communicated. But I still feel that concept card is the simplest stimulus to be used for translation.
Got it. And what do you think about the rules that are usually dictated around writing a concept? One page, 100 words. Is that, do you prescribe to that?
I would always go for a one slide kind of a thing. My method always has been you write it down and then try to make it as pithy as possible. So remove, test each adjective that you are putting there, whether it is needed or not, and test out each word. But you craft only when you've written it once or twice, and then you craft it better. So make it as pithy as possible. I don't have a word rule, but I have never taken any concept beyond one slide or one A4 sheet.
Right. And does a concept work just to validate a brand's thought process or to benchmark versus competition also?
Yeah, it can work for any purpose that you like. You can benchmark against competition. For example, if your competition is already a popular brand and they have some kind of a positioning that they claim, now you want to test, number one, if you claim the same positioning, what is the strength of association in consumers mind. Number two, you might have a different positioning and you want to see which one of these resonates with the consumer more. Yeah. Or if you're you know uh, if you're keen to take another angle on the same positioning and thereby reposition your competitor, even that can be tested. So all relative as well as solo testing can happen using a concept.
Right. And is there a limit on how many concepts you can test at one time with the
I
consumer?
don't think so, frankly, uh, unless you are a maniac and you want to test 20-25 concepts. But I've been part of researches where we call it a cyclical concept kind of a research. So you take a concept to
Hmm.
them, take their feedback, revise the concept, take it back. So I've seen 4 or 5 rounds of concepts being taken to the consumers. uh, that is okay.
Right.
I don't think there is any rule around it.
Right. And in the previous episode about qual and quant
Hmm.
research, we spoke about concepts in both. So does a concept aid qual and quant
Yeah.
research, or is there a bias to
No, I
either
think
one
both
of
are
them?
the fine, because finally at the end of the day quant will tell you what and how much. So therefore a concept, against the concept you can say that the insight, are how much are you able to relate to the insight. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is I don't relate with it at all, and 10 is I can relate with it completely. And then a qual will help you understand the why do you think that the insight is relatable, what part of that resonates with you, why do you say that, when do you feel like that, etc., etc. So it, frankly, it's a great aid for either research.
You're listening to CoB, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitral Brand Expertise, growth consultants to consumer facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to cobcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
The breakdown of the logic flow of a concept makes total sense. I think that's the best way to put it. The insight, the benefit, the reason to believe, and the emotional payoff. I think that's a perfect structure. But now we go into our listeners' favorite segment of most podcasts, where you illustrate all this with an example.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about it, and I actually picked up a brand for which I had made a concept card multiple times, and it is not my brand. It's a competition brand that I was trying to work upon, and some of our listeners would have heard about it in a couple of previous episodes as well. So I picked up Kinder Joy because I actually love the layering that they do with their concept. For the uninitiated, Kinder Joy is a product worth, I think, $40. It's a plastic egg shaped offering from Ferrero, which is it's a plastic thermoform egg, and which, when torn apart, divides into two halves. One half contains the chocolate. The chocolate is a gooey, uh, uh, creamy and chocolate combination, and it has two wafer balls in it. And this is sealed with a plastic seal. You have to tear apart the seal and eat the chocolate with a scoop. The scoop is stuck to the seal of the other side. Under that seal, you have a toy, and usually the toy is very nicely made, uh, very fairly well designed, well fitting toy with some kind of an instructions sheet along with it. Yeah, that's the construct of Kinder Joy. And from a kid's point of view, it provides to them, obviously, beautifully tasting chocolate as well as a toy to engage with. What it also offers is this whole joy of unwrapping, a joy of discovery. So before even you get to the chocolate and the toy, you have to, tear the egg apart, rip the seal on both sides, etc. So therefore that process itself kind of heightens the excitement. Yeah, you don't know what you're gonna get inside. You know the chocolate, you don't know the toy. So that all of that works very well for the kids. It's almost like a gift.
The ritual, the delayed gratification, and the big surprise reveal.
And the way Kinder Joy plays it, articulates it, when you look at their advertising now, and I will possibly put the YouTube link for their advertising in the show notes. So what they do is they do very interesting things. Number one, from a chocolate point of view, make the mother's picture the creamy part as something which contains milk. So they say it has goodness of milk. There are some more outlandish claims about, the balls containing barley and vitamin E, etc. I'm kind of ignoring that. That's a slight claim that they put. And they also talk about toy being a good stimulation for kids' minds. So therefore, there is goodness for the body, goodness for the mind, kind of a thing. And what you will always find, they will never show Kinder Joy being consumed in isolation or being bought in isolation. It will always be about uh, mother giving the Kinder Joy, kids feeling happy, and then kids kind of eating Kinder Joy and playing with the toy along with the mother. In the ad that we will put, the kids come back and give and kiss on either cheek of mom. There are two kids in the ad, so there is this layer of the fact that the product is liked by kids because of the nutrition and stimulation it offers. There is permissibility from the mother, and finally there is emotional payoff for the mother because she not only makes the kid happy, kids come back and express their love for her, and she is also able to play with them. She is able to spend moments of togetherness with them. So that's the whole layer that they build, and it's quite nicely woven. One of the previous episodes we had spoken about this benefit laddering, which was via FAB, features, advantages and benefits. And before you construct your concept card, if you make your FAB, it will be easier for you to claim what is your benefit, what is your reason to believe, etc. So from a feature point of view, a Kinder Joy has a gooey chocolate, wafer ball and toys, and gooey chocolate with goodness of milk, wafer balls with vitamin E, and toy for mind stimulation. Now it has great shelf packaging, it has bright colors, it has egg shape, etc., etc. Right. Now, advantage is it is liked by kids and it is good for kids. Yeah, good for kids comes from calcium and vitamin E, liked by kids because of toy, etc., and the tasty chocolate. Yeah, and then when you ladder it up, the benefit, and because it is given by the mother, is moments of togetherness and happiness between parents and kids. Yeah, so that's the FAB for the concept. When you then try to put it in a concept form, so what is the consumer insight? Yeah, the consumer insight is when, and now you're getting a mother to read this, therefore possibly you will want to write it in first person format for a mother. So she is the one who is going to buy and give it to the kids. So a mother would say that as a parent, uh, I struggle to find something which is good for kids and that is liked by the kids. Or if you want to expand it, you can say that as a mother, whenever I try to find something which is good for kids, it is either not tasty or it is not liked by the kids. How I wish there was something which was good for the kids as well as liked by them also. Yeah, both ways, either ways is fine, the insight remains the same, depends on what you are comfortable.
And the insight always ends with a consumer wish or a want.
And if you build it like that, it makes your offer land better. Yeah, but it is not necessary. You can just say that uh, as a parent, I'm always on lookout for products which are good, nutritionally good for my kids, uh, and and have a decent chance of being liked by my kids also. Yeah, the same insight will hold true for wide range of products. Insights are not unique because insights are human truths. They will be built upon by multiple categories. So this whole category of gummies, for example, nutritional gummies, goes on this insight. In fact, even a lot of the toothpaste, kids toothpaste that tastes well, yeah, strawberry flavored toothpaste, etc., etc., also go by the same insight. Yeah, so you will find a wide variety of stuff, kids stuff, which builds on this. Sometime back I saw this advertising by Mattel where they were advertising for Barbie. So now Barbie dolls are obviously liked by the girls, but they gave it a slightly higher meaning to say that, by playing with a Barbie and doing whatever role play, etc., that a girl does, it allows them to dream of their future even before they start realizing it. So they were trying to give meaning to this whole play with the doll bit, and hence again going into that space that it is good for them and it is obviously liked by them.
Right. So I think in one of our recent episodes about insights, we also articulated insight as an emotional vulnerability of the consumer, which can be satisfied in innumerable ways. In fact, can go across even categories. So makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Okay. So this is the relevant consumer insight. Then comes your brand offer. And brand offer is fairly simple because now that you've done your FAB, so therefore it is fairly easy. You will say presenting Kinder Joy, a unique combination of chocolate plus toy with three benefits: chocolate that's good for health, toys that stimulate the mind, and uh, and a and a product that gives moments of togetherness between mothers and kids. Very clearly, what you saw there in FAB is completely translated here. Now, reason to believe requires you to go little more factual. So therefore, you will say that's because it has creamy white chocolate that's rich in cow's milk. Now, this is, I'm not making this up. This is something which is stated in the advertising. So when our audience see the advertising, they will see all of these claims. Then it says a cocoa chocolate with wafer balls that's rich in vitamin E and thoughtfully designed toys that stimulate the mind. And then finally, there is emotional payoff. Emotional payoff is just a summation of all of this and possibly done in a pithy manner. So we say Kinder Joy, and again, I've picked it up from the advertising itself: goodness for growing kids, creative minds, and caring moments. So it's quite nicely, capturing everything. Kinder Joy, goodness for growing kids, creative minds, and caring moments.
Can that also substitute for a
It
tagline of the
can. So
brand?
you can possibly say Kinder Joy, my ultimate solution to making my kids happy, healthy, and connected, or and loving, or something of that sort.
Awesome. If I could get Kinder Joy to get my kids to be loving.
Correct. Yeah. So something of that sort. So you can do that. Yes, that's also a legible route. Any of these will do. And maybe if those are the two thoughts you have, that should I kind of articulate each one of them, or should I try to make it pithy? Make two versions, and you can check with a few consumers. That's the beauty of concept card.
I think that's beautiful. So the fact that you've reverse engineered the concept from the communication kind of gives a lot of structure to see how a concept can actually translate into your final communication for the brand. And this structure, I think we're going to drop this in the show notes, the framework and the link to the ad we're talking about.
If we build upon it and we try to create
Mhm.
a concept card for CoB,
Okay,
so what is the relevant consumer insight? Relevant consumer insight, and now I am taking a shot at it. Relevant consumer insight
let's go.
is that there are quite a few businesses that want to create a brand for themselves but don't have access to sufficient brand knowledge or expert brand practitioners. And so it could be that. And if you want, you can add, from a brand owner's perspective, that how I wish somebody could dispel marketing myths and help demystify marketing concepts for me.
It all sounds so complex. I don't know where to start. I wish somebody could simplify this and tell me how to go
Correct.
about building my brand.
Then brand offer is presenting CoB, simple enough conversation between two experienced marketers where they dispel myths around marketing, demystify marketing concepts, and lay out simple playbook for building your brand. Reason to believe that CoB is hosted by Sudeep Chawla and Sharuna Raghavan, who have a combined marketing experience of more than 3 decades between them and have had exposure to large consumer brands which are known for their iconic advertising and iconic brand work, as well as uh, access to a good amount of entrepreneurial work with small brands that are looking to create their own brand identity as well as route to market.
So there is relevance built in, there's a competence built in, and the drive to engage, simplification built in. Perfect.
Finally, emotional payoff is CoB, my one stop shop for all things marketing.
Ah.
Yeah. So something of this kind. So I'm just
That's
making it up
perfect.
as we go along. Again, the idea is not to blow our own trumpet, but to try and create the structure which can be used by anybody, and it can be used on anything. You can create a concept card for yourself. Yeah, it can be used for
Right.
anything.
And this is something what you just touched upon is a very important point. It's not about getting it first time right. You rather make all the mistakes on paper in the concept format before finding out the same mistakes in the market. That's the whole point of writing a concept. So don't be afraid to take leaps of faith. Don't be afraid to have at least half concepts in, even if you don't think it's complete. Test what you can, because you can always build on it. That's what the whole testing process is for. Thank you so much, Sudeep.
Thank you, Sharon. See you.
Thank you for listening to CoB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.